airlines take some persuading to move over to that because they see it from an aesthetic point of view. Well, it doesn't look as nice as being on a plate. The allergy person doesn't give a shit. They were upset because I wasn't eating anything. I said, I don't feel safe. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like this place. It looks. I mean, I thought it looked dodgy from the outside, to be fair. But
One inside. Yeah. I'm really bad because like we'll go on holiday and she'll walk into a restaurant and I walk in and look around and I'm like, no, I'm not eating it. She's like, not even what's on the menu. I'm like, no.
Before I was celiac, I would have a sandwich at Pret.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't go anywhere near it. It's just no point. I'd have coffee from there. That's about it.
Yeah. Even that I'm on edge. Like I get Black Americano, I'm like looking over, like no, definitely no milk, like no kind of
advocating for their own allergy.
Yeah.
People think that they're just being difficult. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
As somebody who says, I'm no longer apologetic.
Yeah.
If I go to a restaurant and there's like one thing I can eat and I don't want to eat it, I won't eat there.
Could you do me a massive favour and click follow or subscribe button? It helps the podcast out so much. Hello and welcome back to Make It Same Podcast. I'm joined by Marc, and honestly, I think you're the first guest to have on who knows more about me than I do about you. Obviously, we recently did kind of you as an editor, you did the press release. But for anyone who wants to do, obviously, a bit of an introduction to yourself, honestly, the list goes on. Like honestly, like from restaurant owners. But yeah, if you'd like to do a bit of an intro.
So we met in my capacity as a writer for a couple of magazines, and I interviewed you because I wanted to know more about your story and how this podcast came to exist. I wasn't pitching to get on it or anything, but it was very nice of you to ask me to. I own Niche Gluten Free Dining, which is a gluten free restaurant and was the first in London, in Angel, Islington. I set that up with my business partner purely selfishly because I was diagnosed celiac in the very early stages of having the restaurant. And my business partner said to me, there's no point owning a restaurant you can't actually eat in. And he was right, but it was a big journey to become good at that. And at the time I was working in the aviation industry as culinary director of quite a large, the largest airline caterer in the UK. And we were dealing with almost 100 airlines. And so I had a really good perspective. But one of the things I wasn't so happy about was the way they produced special meals, which are the dietary special meals or allergen special meals you would pre-order on board, before you go on a flight. So in our infinite wisdom, we decided to set up Niche Free From Kitchen, which is our food production business, which we make airline special meals, we do private healthcare, and we have retail products as well.
Yeah.
So quite broad, and that's now become bigger. And we produce in America, in Thailand, and we have a new kitchen opening on the 1st of April in Toronto.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's incredible. Like you do so much. If we go back to the very beginning. You was a washer in a fish restaurant.
That's
you mentioned on your website.
So you've done some research on
we did a bit of research. If we go back to the very beginning, would you say that was where you kind of got your foot into kind of hospitality and kind of working in a restaurant?
Honestly, no, because my grandmother, my dad's mum, they had a hotel.
Oh, okay.
And they had a pub and they worked in hospitality. So, and she was a real... how would I put it? She was the hostess with the mostest kind of lady. It was very English kind of food, at that time. But it was her who really got me into it. And my mum and dad had a nursing home, and my mum was the matron of that home, and we had a chef there. His name, I can't remember now, it was Mr. Gabriel.
Wow.
Mr. Gabriel, he made a big impression on me, and he was just a little, I don't know, it sounds a bit weird, but exotic in terms of the way he cooked, his style, and I suppose I really liked that enthusiasm, and I had a passion for cooking really, really young, and really enjoyed it. I don't think I was particularly good at it early on, but I became better at it as the years went on, and then that's kind of how it started, and then my mum was quite strict. My parents are divorced, and she said, you must get a job. So I was about 14 and 13 in fact, and she drove me around to lots of local places, go in there and see if they've got any washing up jobs. And, after a couple of rejections, I went into one, and the Swedish lady I mentioned in the thing you must have read, who was the head chef there and owner, she gave me a job washing up. She was extremely strict, and it was a time before dishwashers, put
Yeah.
it that way. And it was a really famous fish restaurant, and I guess it was kind of baptism by fire, but I loved it and I got into it, became better at it quite quickly, and that was where it all began.
Do you think, from obviously seeing everything you do now, the work ethic is definitely there? Do you think from a young age you had that drive or ambition?
I think it's a familial thing. I think my sister is the same.
Yeah.
We are quite driven. I think we all work really, really hard. Even my mum only just retired just before the pandemic. She's 76
Wow.
now, and so literally just retired, and she was still running a nursing home. My dad still works. He's 75, and
What does he currently do now?
he lives in Spain. Has lived in Spain for about 35 years. He works in property.
Yeah.
So he still does that. And
Amazing.
he has a horse livery with my younger sister who lives there. So still working, still mucking out horses.
I know my
doing all that
dad's
stuff.
still working like crazy hours. I keep telling him to calm down because, like, I don't know, as you get older, like, you never know. I mean, one day to the next kind of thing, and you want to enjoy it as well, but also like to get nice things in life, like you got to put the hours in there.
My dad's not one for relaxing. Never has been. He likes to be working,
Busy,
and I kind of am the same. Even on the rare occasion I do get a holiday, I have.
Do you ever switch off completely, or
not completely? I think I'd feel, I know people who can go away from work, not look at emails. That would stress me more, I think.
Oh, really?
It would,
Give you
because
anxiety by not
I need to
like
know.
checking it. Yeah.
Yes, my anxiety would come from not knowing what's going on. But I do. I mean, when I, it's been a while because obviously that I travel a lot because of my work.
Do you enjoy traveling? Or is it one of them you enjoyed it at the start, but the more you do it, it becomes a bit like repetitive?
Well, I suppose the majority of the travel I do is for business.
Yeah.
So either trade shows or seeing customers, and it sounds like I have this really amazing time because I'm flying here, there, and everywhere. And I suppose it's quite privileged that travel business class, all that kind of stuff. But you look at it more analytically. You look at the products on board. I think I look at it in a very different way to the way you would look at it.
Yeah.
So I look at the service, the interaction. Was my special meal that I pre-ordered delivered, and I've just come back from Toronto, as you probably know, and my meal was not loaded, and that's annoying. So I always carry snacks for flights, just in case, because it happens now and again. And unfortunately, on this occasion, I won't name the airline. But
I mean, you can do if you want to.
No, because I kind of want them to be a customer.
Oh yeah, I was going to say Don't want to like burn too many bridges like with the podcast. So,
And I flew with them because I wanted to see what it was like, the actual experience. It took 6 emails, I think, to actually order the meal in the first place, and then it wasn't. They loaded a vegan meal rather than a gluten-free meal. So the vegan meal, which was not actually gluten-free either. So that was not, and the crew were sort of mortified, and they were absolutely wonderful. I will say that on this airline.
And I think we'll get to that later because I really want to talk about also the experience with like special meals, and like some people might not even be aware what a special meal is if they don't have an allergy. So we're great since that. I know you went to Paris and you kind of studied at prestigious cooking school.
Cordon Bleu.
Yeah. How was that experience? Was that quite full on?
Yeah, but I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it. It's.
Did that set you up for life? Do you think?
I think it did. I think you learn foundation stuff that you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah,
and you. I think it builds a foundation of cooking. Obviously, it's very French style.
Yeah,
and food has evolved. It isn't just French.
What did you
nowadays.
specialize in when you was younger? Did you specialize in?
It was, I suppose you would say sauce. I think you would call it nowadays, sauce. But you did kind of everything.
Yeah.
Butchery, patisserie. You did everything. Kill it, cook it, eat it. Not the kill it bit.
Yeah.
But all of that stuff. And you learn from peeling sacks and sacks and sacks upon sacks of potatoes.
Yeah.
And then cutting them in a million different ways, and you just learn the foundation stuff. It doesn't make you a good chef, but it makes you know the basics.
How old was you at the time? You was quite young.
In my early 20s, yeah.
Early 20s, like. And then obviously you become a chef. Where was the first gig after?
Oh, God. I worked for Green King.
Oh, really?
Not Flash at all.
Yeah.
No.
Is that the pub? No.
Pub chain, yeah. So my hometown's Brereton Edmonds in Suffolk, which is where Green King were based.
Yeah.
And they had a number of pubs it was called the Forge Scheme. Yeah. So basically where they took these really nice old pubs and shoved this enormous sort of, I don't know, prefabricated or barn or whatever on the side.
Yeah.
With like usually about 150 to 200 seats and worked there. But it was super cooked by numbers.
Yeah.
And I didn't really enjoy it. Then I sort of came out of the kitchen and went front of house. I think maybe from being there, I don't know. But they also, as my time went on there, I was there for a couple of years, and they brought more and more frozen food in. It just really, I like cooking. I don't like defrosting and plunking
Put it in a microwave kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not my thing. I don't even eat ready meals, it's kind of just not my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously becoming celiac. How long ago was this?
I was diagnosed 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with something else about 25. I was diagnosed with IBS when I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
I'd had issues, down there. And then I just was feeling really rough. I got this really weird rash, which I now know is related to celiac disease. And I went to the doctor maybe 3 times, and they just sent me away with antihistamines.
Oh, really?
So it'll clear up. It'll clear up.
You'll be fine.
It didn't clear up. And I asked Dr. Google, as you do.
Yeah.
And I had a suspicion because of all the symptoms I had, and I phoned Coeliac UK, in fact, because I said, is there somebody I could talk to? And they were really, really good. And hence I will always support them, because I thought what they did was, for me personally, was really good. They said, you need to go and get this test and the biopsy, which I did.
Is it just a blood test?
So you have a blood test first. You have to continue eating gluten, which I was anyway.
Yeah.
Then you go for a endoscopy, and they take a sample of your gut to see if the villi, which are the bits that flick out that absorb nutrients in your body, are flat if you're celiac. So mine were flat as a pancake. I also had to have my tonsils out, which when you're 40 isn't nice, just generally felt it was the lethargy. I just had no energy from being this energy workaholic person to just being flat as a pancake.
Did it happen over a period, or was it a bit like 1 week you just...
It became progressively worse. The IBS thing was obviously related to one's bowel movements. Nobody likes to talk about those things, but I think people should.
Yeah.
And I think people should be more...
conversation,
It was not a nice conversation, but it's an honest conversation. And, I owned a contract catering company at the time when my symptoms became really, really bad. I think it was partly due to stress, partly due to just being really busy and lots of business meetings where you're having meals with clients, that kind of thing. But, being there and actually needing to run to the toilet, and it was happening more and more and more. It's horrendous to manage. And it just became worse and worse. And anyway, got the diagnosis, and the only cure, as you know, for celiac disease is to eliminate gluten altogether. And whilst I knew about gluten, I was fairly, I know food. What I didn't understand is the science that goes with cooking gluten-free food and producing good results. There are loads of different people cooking and doing gluten-free food, but you can't just substitute flour for gluten-free flour. it just doesn't have the same results, doesn't work the same
What
way.
the taste, isn't there? Or
Texture, taste, the hydration of those things, it's just completely different. And that was a whole new thing. And being I am super nerdy.
Yeah, I know. I remember you saying this when we
and I studied and read and watched gazillion videos from people who've been doing it for a while, longer than me. And, you know, I learned some stuff, and I think the business also attracts quite a few people who are who have food allergies. So we have quite a few working within the business now.
I was going to say that connection with celiac then brought you closer to people with food allergies.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And one of the ladies who works with us now, her name's Helen. She's our product development manager, about to go on maternity leave. But she worked for us at the restaurant when she was a student in London. And then she went to Ireland to do her master's in food science, and then worked for Be Free. And then when we opened the factory in the UK, she came over and came to head that up. But I learned a lot from her. She'd never had gluten her whole life. So her perspective was very different. I've got a very good memory on how food tastes. I know what a real croissant should taste like. So when they fob me off on these horror shows of hard disasters, they're just not the same. So my thing, and I think my business partner as well, we were very scared when we opened the restaurant, for example, of not alienating the clients or the customers we already had. So if we're going to do something, we want to make it, the idea was it's gluten free, but you wouldn't know it. And I think if we evolve the restaurant further, which we hope to, it will become niche free from dining, I think, because we've become more allergy conscious generally. We are now also tree nut and peanut and sesame free, but we also have reduced, we have very little milk in the business. So there's a couple of products which have milk in it, but obviously many celiacs are allergic to milk as well. So those things have become more conscious. You just become more conscious of those things when you meet people like you.
Did it start off as a bakery? Is that correct?
That's right. So the reason that I probably got so sick because I was stuffing my face
every day.
I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I was so fat.
And they was gluten free. They was gluten free as well.
No,
baker was just a normal baker. Oh, right. Oh,
it was a normal. Okay. We had an overnight baker. We had all the breads and all that sort of stuff on display. I was shoving them down my gullet like it was going out of fashion. No wonder. Obviously, so it obviously made it acute, and but that's how I.
So it's that. And then now with the restaurant, like you said, I have a severe nut allergy. It's got no nuts or peanuts in the establishment.
Not at all. No. And we did have, I have to say, we because obviously one of the substitutes for flour is almond, ground almonds or almond flour, as they call it in some places. So we had to extract every nut, scrub the place over, test it. And that's what we've done. Our factory has never had nuts in it. So.
In regards to then the suppliers, then how's that experience been with you? Obviously, to reduce any risk of any kind of cross contamination.
So when we set up the restaurant, we had some experience, where at that time there weren't, now you go to a supermarket, you see loads of gluten-free stuff. Not necessarily all good, but you see lots of gluten-free stuff. It wasn't the same then. So we really had to go out of our way to find suppliers that did the gluten-free thing. So we had some experience from that, but then we went nut free and peanut and tree nut free and sesame free. We really had to work hard with our supply chain to do that. And ultimately we're a fresh food. We make everything within our business. So that's really good. We have a couple of people who make, having said that, we do have a couple of people who make some bread for us, but everything else we make within our business. So that's easier. But the other bit was in the pandemic, as you probably know, Natasha's Law came out, and suppliers then started to put may contain or
like a blanket statement,
statements on stuff. So, for example, we had to bring in spice grinders. So lots of spices that you might find in your own cupboard would have may contain or made in the kitchen that also handles XXX. And we just prohibit those. So we had to buy spice grinders, a separate spice grinder for mustard when we do mustard. But actually, there's been double. A, it's cheaper. B, you get a much nicer product because if you grind fresh spices,
You're saying to me to get one off Amazon.
get one.
Yeah,
get
honestly,
one.
like makes
Make
a difference.
it your birthday present or Christmas present. Absolutely,
yeah.
they're not expensive, and they really do make a difference. And if you buy spices whole and then grind them and then heat them up, they're really nice.
Yeah, I know you've kind of written about like empathy before in regards to if they don't have an allergy. How do you teach the staff that? Or do you have training? Like, I just thought it's quite interesting, you know, if they don't have that connection to maybe celiac or allergies, how do you teach that?
Well, in the airline industry or travel industry magazine I write for, I wrote a piece on empathy, and it came from, I suppose, when we sell into an airline, most people who are actually choosing the special meals that go on board often don't even try them. And really don't understand allergies themselves often, and do it choose based on the look of the food rather than what it's actually trying to achieve, i.e. is it safe for that passenger to eat. And so I wrote a piece about empathy, explaining, I would say it's true of all of us in some measure, because before I was celiac myself, I didn't have the empathy. I thought I was the, when people used to come to the restaurant and I was being door bitch, they say, oh, I've got such and such an allergy. So I think I'm like, oh God. But now I'm on the opposite side of that, and I think. I think differently. I think I want our business to be the friendly face of allergies, and I want to educate.
I always think when you have that, like when they've got that personal connection, they've got a friend or family member, they just get it. Whereas, like you say, sometimes if they don't, then it's just like you've got to really explain how serious it is.
When people are advocating for their own allergy, people think that they're just being difficult. I think that's ridiculous. And I think, as somebody who says, I'm no longer apologetic. If I go to a restaurant and there's like one thing I can eat and I don't want to eat it, I won't eat there. Simple as that. I do go out less as a consequence, I will say that. But I'm also not prepared. If I am gluten, and it happens so rarely now, I'm very, very sick. I suppose not eating gluten at all for so many years. Is it like
vomiting? Because I remember I worked with a girl who was celiac. I didn't know anything about it. And she violently gets, she can't go into work. Like,
yes, same. The bloating is horrible. It lasts for 2 weeks. But yes, it's graphic. I won't go into it, but it's graphic. It's a graphic experience. Painful. It's upsetting because you feel like,
I'm trying to think how she explained it. Like, is it like it actually not burns the inside? I don't know. I don't know.
I think everyone is different, because I will tell a secret story that Helen, who I mentioned earlier, our product development manager, and myself had developed or have been developing a puff pastry, a really good one, not one like you buy in the supermarket, one that actually works. We're doing it for a long, long, long time. We had it made by a partner, and both of us, within half an hour, me first, were really, really, really sick. And what we found out is this person had used a rolling machine that had normal flour dust on it. So it wasn't like proper, it wasn't like even full ingestion. It was the dust from this thing. But Helen was vomiting. I was the other way.
And this was a supplier?
This was a supplier who was, let's say it's no longer a supplier.
You're no longer working with, thank God.
And we were both really, really unwell. And I suppose it's really annoying when you get sick, because you work really, really hard and consciously eat so you are not sick. So when it's kind of upsetting. I mean, I think Helen was more upset than I was, but I was angry. My reaction was angry. I think she felt angry too. And we are, I think, empathy, which was your original question, I think is just not there. People just do not have it. I don't think you can teach it either. You can try and explain what an allergy is, think about it, try and get people to think about it as if it was someone they love or care about. and then people may have a little more empathy. But I honestly, I'm not sure, apart from perhaps a Sten gun, how you get the message across.
Because I think I'm the same as you. Like, if they don't understand it, I just walk out that restaurant. Like, why should I risk my life for someone? And there was one experience. I went to, like, it was mini golf, but it had swingers in London.
Mini golf.
Yeah, no, the mini golf swingers in London, but it's got food establishments inside.
Okay.
So it's like a crazy golf course, like loads of different kind of courses. But then there's you'll be there next week. There's like 4 different kind of food outlets, and one of them was it was like a burger restaurant. And basically, I said, "Oh, have you got an allergy menu?" And I was looking for the allergy menu, like no nuts. But for whatever reason, I just went on my phone and went on the actual website of this establishment and they had an allergy menu online, like a PDF, and it had may contain peanuts on like the dish and all the dishes. So I was like, why is it not on the actual allergy menu? And so I shouted her over and I was like, this allergy menu doesn't say anything about nuts, but then on the allergy menu and I brought up my phone, I said everything says may contain peanuts. And she was like, oh yeah, like sorry about that. And it's just like she kind of like shrugged her shoulders. And then
was that manager or staff member?
That was that wasn't the manager. And she was like, oh, it's only traces, a response was. So I saw red. Here we go. Like, so I saw red and I was like, you could have killed me tonight, blah, blah, blah. I want to speak to your floor manager. Then the floor manager finally come over and I kind of told him, he was really nice actually. Kind of resolved the issue. Then I followed up with the email. They said they've changed it since, but yeah, he went all the way to the top actually. He went to like one of the kind of directors and he was really apologetic. But yeah, it just goes to show like sometimes like you got to go with that gut feeling. I'll just make sure the information is correct. Imagine having an allergy menu and it wasn't up to date.
Well, I think now, in my past, I would always prefer independence. I always prefer independent restaurants over chain restaurants. But actually, on average, the chain restaurants probably have better training within them.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of chains that I will go to as opposed to others because I know from experience that I've not been ill from them.
Yeah.
But when I was in Canada, our partners there took us out, this was only week before last, and they took us to a Thai restaurant, their favourite Thai restaurant. And the guy who owned it came over and chatted to them. He's obviously been to their however many times. And he said, oh yeah, we do gluten free, And I ate a little bit of something and I just knew immediately.
Straight away,
yeah, I'm not eating anymore. And I didn't have much at all, less than a teaspoon, but I had bloat belly for the entire time I was there and for 2 weeks. Even now, have it just from that. And I was just, and I didn't eat anything else. They were upset because I wasn't eating anything. I said, I don't feel safe. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like this place. It looked. I mean, I thought it looked dodgy from the outside, to be fair. But
one inside. I'm really bad because like we'll go on holiday and she'll walk into a restaurant and I walk in and look around and I'm like, no, I'm not eating it. She's like, not even what's on the menu. I'm like, no. Just like she goes mad, like because I just say I have this like gut feeling. It's like a spidey senses. I walk in there like, no, I'm not too sure. Like,
yeah, I think I'm the same, and I just don't want to be ill. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
and sometimes you seek out the gluten-free places and often they're just not very good.
Yeah.
And
with your restaurant, it's 100% credited for being gluten-free as well. Yeah. I forgot to mention that before.
Coeliac UK, but we went to I've been to lots of gluten-free places and some are really, really good. And I watched lots of the blogs, I love Becky XL and lots of the people who do them. Because they're kind of down to earth, and this is where I go and everything else. And I use them in researching places. I tend to look for more the fine dining end, perhaps. But it's really interesting to see how.
Would you say fine dining is better then?
No, worse.
Oh, I see. I've not ate I've ate 1 or 2 Michelin star, and they've been great, like amazing.
Yeah. Some are really, really good, but some
that's interesting.
Consciously, and it's their right to refuse. And I think I'd rather know that.
Yeah.
So if I know that, okay, fair enough, I understand. As somebody who was a food person, yes, you want to be inclusive, but if the inclusivity takes away what you do and you're not good at cooking that stuff, why would you? So I kind of get that. But there are plenty of Michelin star places or fancy places that do really good job.
Yeah. Is there any countries in particular where they've really got it nailed down, or is it no?
No, I think nowhere in particular. I think I've not been, but apparently Israel's really good for gluten free. I'd like to go there. My dad lives in Spain, as I said, so there's lots of places there I go to, and actually. I just wrote a piece for the magazine on eating out in Madrid.
Yeah,
and there's lots of places there, lots and lots of places. And that's really good. And when I go to my dad's, there's a place in Marbella we go to every single time, and it's celialoso. It's 100% celiac approved in the same way we are. Really nice.
Yeah.
You just feel safe. It's good.
Have you ever been asked to then sign a waiver? Because I know I've been asked, obviously having a food allergy, get asked a waiver. And what's your experience been with that?
It just gets my back up immediately.
Yeah, same, man.
I know I shouldn't be bothered by it, but it does. Can I say piss me off?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want on the podcast.
Sorry. But when the Canadian partners were over in the UK, near the factory, the only place I could think of going to that was near where they were staying on my way back was a chain. I won't say the name, should I, or not? Was Miller and Carter. So we went there, and I thought, well, steak, it'll be safe. Jacket potato, that should be fine.
Yeah.
And they have a gluten-free menu, which they give you, which is great. But as soon as I said, she goes, anyone with any allergies? And I said, yes, I'm celiac. And right, and she went. She had this iPad thing to take the orders, and she read through this. I must ask you to read this and sign this. And I said, is this a disclaimer?
Yeah.
And she said yes. And my guests, obviously both living in Canada, never ever seen this before, and they were like, "Are you serious?" Like it was like, "What's going on here?" I said, well, they want to absolve themselves of responsibility just in case they gluten me. And,
I suppose it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Absolutely not. No, it's not. You have the same consumer rights as anybody else. They can say that they made all necessary precautions. They can state that, but ultimately your rights as a consumer remain the same. And if you were to get sick, you could ask for proof of how they managed the food and from delivery to ending up on your plate. You can ask for that information, not that you necessarily get it, but there are more and more restaurants, as you probably know, just not doing allergy stuff at all, and that's increased, especially post-pandemic, and actually with the introduction of Natasha's Law.
There's a massive percentage which wasn't up to scratch, were they, or they're still just carrying on the same?
Yeah, and it's often from ingredients.
Yeah.
It's not entirely their fault. It's because lots of suppliers within the restaurant industry or hospitality industry have now introduced the may contain or alibi labeling, which obviously means it's not safe, and therefore a restaurant doing the right thing is saying, actually, no, I can't guarantee it. And maybe they were before, so lots of, but it's probably good in the long term. And restaurants will just need to learn how to manage that and how to buy from sources that you can rely on that don't mix everything up and are prepared to say this is gluten free or a nut free or a whatever free product. I think it is, and product can change from 1 week to the next as well, because they might go through a different supply chain or.
So there needs to be constantly up to date with updating all these kind of the labeling on each of the different kind of products. Like, because I never used to eat food from a cafe anyway. I don't think I'm not a cafe or like say a prep, for example. But it's just, even now, it's got the labeling, but I just don't trust it. 'Cause you still hear all these kind of horror stories of someone else died recently because I think it contained yogurt or milk with it. It wasn't labelled clearly.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I before before I was celiac, I would have a sandwich at Pret.
Yeah.
Now I wouldn't go anywhere near it. It's just no point. I'd have a coffee from there. That's about it.
Yeah. Even that I'm on edge. Like I get Black Americano, I'm like looking over, like, no, definitely no milk, like no kind of hazelnut syrup. They just said they don't have nut milk, but I know they've got the hazelnut syrups.
See, I can't do oats. They use, I believe they use oat milk. So oats affect quite a number of celiacs. In fact, in other there are many other countries where oats are not considered gluten free at all, regardless of whether they say gluten free on the label or otherwise. They affect many celiacs in the same way as gluten does. They do me. I've never been able to tolerate them. So that's interesting, but there are that sandwich chain is particularly notorious because of Natasha's law, in fact. But there are many, sadly, examples of instances of cafes, restaurants, airlines where they've just not done the right thing. Yeah.
And really to talk about, obviously, the airline industry. You work with over 75, advising 75 different airlines.
No, I used to work for a company that handled that. Obviously doesn't have quite that number yet, but we're getting there.
We get it. But no, I thought it amazing to kind of get your experience on that, and kind of how did you kind of fall into that?
So I sold my contract catering business. We had niche, and I was on a restrictive covenant in terms of what I was allowed to do. Yeah. So I was headhunted for the role and went to work for a company called Alpha LSG, initially opening their premium kitchen at just near Heathrow, which was, I think, it's one of the largest kitchens in the UK. It has a halal kitchen, a non-halal kitchen, and a logistics centre, and a centre of culinary excellence, which was their presentation rooms. It was very, very flashy and very nice. And the business was trying to have a more culinary focus, and brought in some new people to do that. So that's how I kind of got into it. I'd only really touched before on sort of private jet stuff where you just supply glorified sandwich boxes, really.
Is that what it is? Well,
that was
nicer sandwiches.
Well, nice sandwiches and some posh meals, but generally the duration of flight's quite short with them. But with the airline industry, it was baptism by fire, and being the nerdy person I am, I wanted to know everything. Yeah. So I did everything from flight loading, unloading, every single facet of that business I wanted to understand. Yeah. And I think it was a massive privilege to be able to see so many airlines, their culture. They're all different. Some of them think they're the best in the world. Some of them are incredibly arrogant, and some of them are just really human and normal and nice to work with. And they understand that because of what you see and do, have more experience than they do.
I remember reading Sir Richard Branson's book, and he's saying how British Airways tried taking the customers and up to all these really bad tricks.
Yes.
Which they end up going to court for.
I think they, like many others, they've evolved. The people who ran that business then are not the people who run it now.
Completely different.
And equally, Virgin is not the same business as it was then as it is now. I mean, everything evolves a little bit, or a lot. But both airlines have their strengths and weaknesses, and I think they are all trying to do the right thing. And they all recognise there's a problem with special meals. And if you
it counts up to, is it 20% now of meals on airlines?
Up to more. It depends what you include. So special meals came into the airline industry about 35 years ago this year, and they span allergies, medical meals, religious meals, and what they call lifestyle meals. Sometimes they include children as well. And there are up to 75 of them, which is a lot. And they all go with a four letter code. So GFML is a gluten-free meal. Okay. And a NLML is a no lactose meal, and NPML, no peanut meal. But they were written at a time which is not now. 35 years ago, things have changed, things have evolved. They were invented, if you like, by IATA, who were the company you see on your TV ads saying, who insure your holiday if the airline goes bust or something like that. but they have no governance over them now. So they haven't governed them for years. So airlines have broadly.
I was reading about that, yeah, because I remember you sent up that PDF, and I was giving that a read, and a lot of them are not governed. They've all got their own policies in some way.
Airlines do their own thing, and mostly they do. I mean, mostly they follow the same sort of thing. There've been many organisations try to re-establish them, often for their own ends, to serve the caterers, but generally not serve people with food allergies.
Yeah.
And they don't. They really don't. So often on those meals, even on the gluten-free meal, you'll see may contains.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, on a recent flight, I had the same thing. So I won't eat it. I just won't.
I just don't eat airline food now. I've just got so much like anxiousness now when I get on a flight anyway than the thought of like eating food. So I always kind of like go to W. H. Smith and get the plainest sandwich, or actually just bring my own sandwich on board if I can.
Absolutely. And so we offer a guaranteed, because the passenger is the person who opens it. So there's no touch point between our factory and the passenger eating the meal. So ours are allergen guaranteed, provided it's the passenger who opened them. But airlines take some persuading to move over to that, because they see it from an aesthetic point of view. Well, it doesn't look as nice as being on a plate. The allergy person doesn't give a shit. Yeah. They want to be safe, and they want to, not have to worry about
even the taste sometimes.
Dying.
As long as I know it's safe and like it's going to get me by if I'm on a long haul flight.
I would say the taste is good, obviously.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you want something that is safe to eat.
Yeah.
And
has it been really hard then to like push these ideas through, kind of thing?
It has been challenging. More and more are coming on board now, so it's really good, because there's been a wake up call in the industry since Natasha's law came out, and Europe is moving to the same sort of allergen rules. In America, they're increasing the allergens, and the FDA in America, who govern the laws around food, have just putting in the law that requires all ingredients to be listed, because that wasn't a requirement in America.
Oh, really?
Until now, in fact. So
what about the UK? Is that already required?
No, that's already that was
that
was announced in 2015 and went into force in 2017. So where you have to list all the ingredients. So we used to literally do a ream of paper going onto each flight, which had all the allergen information. I'm not sure how well that's been kept up, but it's probably more electronic now.
Yeah.
But America's only just coming onto that now. Which is, it's great, it's progress. Whatever it is, it's progress. With the nut thing in America, it's a slightly different game altogether.
Yeah, because I know when we spoke on the Zoom, like Leanne obviously has pushed through the policy where you can kind of board early on flights in the US to wipe surfaces.
Leanne Mendelbaum is the lady, No Nut Traveller, and I interviewed her, I think, a year ago for a presentation I was doing at the World Travel Show about food allergies and managing them on board, because she is she's a vocal lady. She's very New Yorkie. I think she's wonderful. And she takes testimony from people who've had experiences on board, good, bad, and ugly, and she has them all on her website. And she campaigned with FAIR in America to take serious food allergies as a disability. So with that right, anyone with a severe food allergy can pre-board the aircraft to wipe down their seat and where they're sitting, and the window ledge and the seat pocket and the screen and whatever else anyone may have touched, to remove that allergen. And but she speaks, she's vehement on the subject, and she's an advocate for people with severe nut, because her son has a severe nut allergy, which it's come from somewhere again personal, and she's had some shocking experiences on board aircraft. And the simple fact is, most American airlines, not all, but still serve big bowl of nuts when you get on board. And whether or not they will not serve those nuts is almost like warfare. It's horrendous.
Yeah, because when I got on a Ryanair flight, I mentioned that I've got an allergy and kind of board early to wipe surfaces, and said and they put me through in front of everyone. Like, but I did feel a bit not weird, but like because obviously having an allergy isn't a visible thing.
No.
Like, but I'm glad it did it. Like, I'm glad
you need to wear a special badge like the autistic children. It is difficult, and I think people will have obviously abused that Of course they will.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. But, ultimately...
Well, I do it now because I was on a flight in Croatia where I didn't clean the surfaces and I had an allergic reaction on my arm, like come out in all hives, and it was really bad. And because I was in a rush, I didn't have the antihistamine with me. It was in the suitcase.
Oh, no.
So I had a right panic, but luckily the air hostess...
You told me this, the cabin crew.
Yeah, the cabin
really
crew
nice.
had the lowest today, which is like...
That's really cool.
So lucky in that situation. But
I think that in the UK and Europe, we are much luckier. We have the allergen law. They have to list the allergens, the 14 allergens. They have to list ingredients so you can make it informed. You can be allergic to things outside the top 14. So it's really important that you know what is in your food. Then you're making, if you choose to put that in your mouth, you are making an informed decision. I do think allergy people have to take accountability a little bit, but if they do everything they can and then it goes wrong, then they should speak up, because it's not just them; it can affect others as well.
yeah. And I know on like the long haul flights outside of the UK, that with the EpiPens, if they don't have a doctor on board, is that correct? That they can't administer?
In Europe, most airlines have EpiPens on board. Outside Europe, and not all European airlines, they carry epinephrine in vials. But obviously, a child dose of epinephrine and an adult dose is quite a different thing.
Yeah.
And the cabin crew are not allowed to administer them. So I don't want to give you more anxiety, but so they have to call for a medical professional on board. And, chances are there may be somebody who can, an injection, but who, in the case of an emergency, okay, let me work out the dosage and of this thing
when you're in a
according to
panic,
your age. This person is literally fighting for breath, and you're going down some sheet in some mystery kit you've never seen before in your life. Undoing all the plastic wrappers and trying to work out the dosage of epinephrine with the saline solution or whatever it is they dilute it with to stick into somebody. It's just ridiculous. So I believe all airlines should carry epinephrine, and in fact I think their entire medical kit should be auto-injectors, not just for epinephrine, to be honest. I think if you're carrying life-saving emergency medication, it should all be in auto-injector format. And because now things can be done by Wi-Fi. If saving a person's life, and you can have a video showing you when in the case of absolute emergency, when you have to do something drastic, then a person could literally talk you through it.
I wonder what the percentage of people getting on flights would know how to use the auto-injector. Like, I would think like at least one person on that flight would, fingers crossed, know how to kind of use it in that situation.
I'm not sure, because not even people who are supposed to know don't always know.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. I mean, you should do it in one leg, then you should do it in the opposite leg if you have to give a second injection. There's a few things people just don't seem to know.
Yeah.
And but cabin crew should all know. Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of want to get your thoughts on like the buffer zone. I know we've spoke about this as well, and that like some airlines are literally
I mean, how stupid! Whose silly idea was that?
The air circulated, so
the air is circulated. They have HEPA filters, which is what they'll tell you, but to what particulate level? And actually, it's been proven that nut can get through. There's been many. You get the nut industry arguing the opposite, but ultimately, you can still get an allergy. And as we know, there have been cases where somebody was 11 rows away, somebody was 14 rows away, where a person still got sick.
It's an interesting, because I spoke to George Detoy about this, and he says the studies show, because I said if I'm on a train and someone's eating nuts in front of me, what's the chances of me having an allergic reaction? He said there's been studies and it's actually quite slim, but then you hear about these stories, not to go against his word, but it does happen. So even knowing that, like, it still puts me on edge. Like,
I mean, human life is the most important thing on earth. We believe as humans. And for me, if you save one human life by not having nuts on board an aircraft for 12 hours maximum, 14 hours maybe, you can live with that. People used to smoke on
Planes, yeah.
I think maybe they'll invent a patch for nuts, nut flavor patch or something, like they do.
Maybe that's your next business venture, eh? Right, yeah.
Well, an idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if that could be done. But I think, isn't it a ridiculous argument? Yeah. It's so ridiculous that you can't get an alternative snack on board just to eliminate it. It's not a big deal. When people book, I mean, I wrote a No Nuts article, as you read, and there are many spurious arguments about, well, we're denying our customers their rights. In some places, like they're so vehement about it, it's like you're taking their gun away from them or something. It's ridiculous.
It's mad, yeah.
And I just think, I have researched, and sadly, there have been many deaths on board due to anaphylaxis over the last 10 years, and it's increased. So I think an airline not addressing it in some measure, they are being complicit in not protecting their customers. I think that every school in the UK and most in Europe now don't allow nuts into the school, peanuts particularly, and tree nuts, into the schools. If kids can manage it for a school day, isn't it ridiculous that an adult, I'm sorry you didn't get your peanuts, sir.
For like a 2-hour flight or what? No, it doesn't matter really how long. You know what I mean?
It doesn't. It's just so silly. There are many other snacks. Be a bit more creative. We've thrown tons out there of different premium snacks. And I totally get it why they were considered a premium snack in the 1950s, 60s, 70s. Still at Christmas, people bring them out, being there, it must be a nightmare for you, being out there.
Yeah, no family parties.
No family parties. They bring out the old walnuts, the nutcrackers and all the rest of it. But so I totally get why they are considered a premium snack, but I just think
it's tricky.
Knock it out.
Yeah, it's tricky because I know the World Allergy Organization strongly recommends like they should ban nuts in all flights, but it just seems so hard to get every airline on board of that. I know EasyJet kind of ban nuts, but
I think we're lucky in the UK. The UK airlines all have some measures in place to manage people who have a nut allergy. They make the announcement, but as you know, even when they make that announcement, do everything right, it's passengers as well. So I think when you book a flight, you should, when you say click to pay, click to do this, click for your luggage or whatever it is you have to do, you should also click to say do not bring nut snacks on board. Click. You accept it. It should be announced at the gate. This is a no smoking flight.
So they acknowledge the fact they've understood it, because it annoys me when you get on a flight where they do the announcement, and some are great, like the UK, like Ryanair, are really good. They do like 3-4 different announcements as the flight goes on. However, like sometimes if they only do one announcement, then
there's a couple of airlines that now automated those announcements on board. So that's really impressive. I think that's really, really great progress. And there are some airlines, we're working with some of them, who really, really do take special meals seriously, particularly the allergen ones. And
I think it's going to take a bit of trust, I think, with the special meal for allergies.
I think if they get good results, and I think that it makes people feel safer. And ultimately, one of the things Leanne said to me, and she's quite right, of course, well, if you trust an airline because their special meals are safe for you to eat, you will pay over and above to continue to fly with that airline because you know they're doing the right thing. And allergy community is not small. It's just not small. They have friends, they have family.
Same with the restaurants as well. I did an Instagram story and I said, if you've had a good experience, would you go back to the same restaurant? And 60 or 70, I think it's higher than that, 70% said yeah. So they're going to keep going to that restaurant if they've had a good experience. Like, why would they eat somewhere else when they know that this restaurant took their allergy really serious, rather than go to a restaurant where they don't know if they're going to take it serious or there's chances of like cross-contamination?
I absolutely right. And I think that in our restaurant, many of our customers over the 10 years, one of the reasons we're full quite a lot of the time is because people don't even know. People are sometimes oblivious to the fact, oh, was it gluten free? Okay, brilliant. I didn't know that.
And they didn't know because, it's incredible.
And I think that's the way to try and do it. But many people, like people who cook normal food, who don't really understand gluten free, don't know how to cook it well. There is, I mean, I can I can put that to the test in so many places. It's really interesting. And there's an arrogance around chefs. I can do gluten free. It's nothing. Okay, make me this, make me this, make me this. Let's see. Like lead.
It's amazing how you've took your personal experiences and then you've actually like obviously created businesses around it.
Does it show you what a completely selfish person I really must be?
Is that how your mind works? Is it always like how I can kind of solve a problem?
I think it's like what would be a business solution for this problem. Yeah, absolutely. I think. I mean,
where do you start? Right? Do you start with on paper, or is it a business plan, or when you have this idea?
I suppose I talk about it with lots of people, and sometimes it has to fester away for quite a while in my head for it to come to fruition. Yeah. But as I think I told you, we've just launched we were running the brand for a while, but we have a brand called Cub Food, which is a free-from brand for children, which we already have on airline. We do private healthcare, so it's going into some private healthcare. But we want to launch the meals and some other products into retail, premium retail again. Only to start with, and I thought, isn't it stupid that there's no free-from brands for children? I can't believe it. There's a 300% rise in child food allergies in the last 2 years. Unbelievable, unprecedented rise in allergies, and
there's nothing.
Nobody doing anything. Yeah. How stupid! So I want to create a brand that people will know, trust, will love. We're working very hard to make the brand come to life. He's a character. There's a bunch of. We've got Cub Club, which has will have a load of stories to teach other kids to be empathetic about their friends and how to look after them.
Amazing.
And I feel strongly about it. I think it's something that if we can teach our children, and then they know better. I mean, my son.
What kind of food is it for kids?
It's. So obviously the airline stuff is like a hot meal. We just do hidden veg, that kind of stuff. But the secret's there, that kind of thing. It's playful. But it's free of gluten, milk, tree nuts, peanuts, and sesame. Amazing. And many other things as well. And it's familiar food. Sometimes with the volume turned up, but children have very sensitive palates. So things that are bitter, like we might like broccoli, for example, can be very bitter to a child. So we've worked to make the food really palatable, meet nutritional values, low salt.
Do you have to do like trials with
we kids?
Did. Yeah.
I think we did a big kids party on Saturday.
How was that? Was it a success?
It was. Children are so honest, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't like something.
They don't like it. This is
they really are. And
best feedback though, isn't it?
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So we had 10 kids, 5 to 10 years old. We did it like a kids party. So we had pass the parcel. We had the freeze or statues game. We had lots of different things, and they loved it. And we did the food in different sort of sessions, and we did some cold food, which they weren't that keen on a couple of things. So we've made changes as a consequence of that. But they loved all the hot foods. We had some ready meals that we would serve both on board and in retail and in healthcare actually. And then we had it was really funny. I said that you're going to be trying this, and there's pizza as well. There's there's a massive cheer for pizza, and you realise, that's what they like. And so there's no point giving kids what they don't like, but you can hide the veg in the tomato sauce. You can do all sorts of stuff to make it a little bit more interesting. And that product was vegan, and none of them even knew. None of them knew. So it was really good. But we did ready meals. We did hot snacks and stuff that regenerates well on both the plane and at home. And the feedback was really excellent, really excellent. And
definitely from the parents as well. Imagine I only know about one, but I know it's not out yet, so I don't want to say it on the podcast. But only one other kids brand. I think it's based towards infants. So.
Yeah, there's an infants one. There is an infants one. Yeah, but there are not many like fully fledged brands that going out there cater for it. And I want to create this familiarity that you can see it in the supermarket, you can get it on a plane. Okay, that's safe, and every kid can eat. Every kid
building
can
like
eat
a brand story, in it, like some
Yeah.
which aligns like and all these different kind of like touch points.
Yes, I
and
want
stuff. And
to
I think
be-
building a character is a great idea. Do you work
Yes.
with like different ad agencies then?
No,
no, just
not yet.
Yeah.
No,
All right, that's
it's
cool, yeah.
all in house at the moment, but we have
How many people have you got in house then at the minute? Got quite a few.
about 50.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
but not all that. I mean, that's everybody.
That's everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the business.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, but it's expanding quite quickly as well. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. It's
So apart from that brand, what would you say your goals, ambitions you've got like in this coming year? Would that be the main focus? Would you say?
We've got some big airlines coming on board this year, which is really exciting. But also we have to deliver what they are. So it's delivery, really
A lot of high
about
standards
delivery.
with airlines.
Yeah,
would you
well,
say,
we're really strict. The reason
with food. Yeah.
we deliver what we do is because we are incredibly strict. So we've got a lot of recruitment to do this year. We've got expansion to do this year. Obviously, we're opening a new kitchen in Canada. We've got some stuff going on in America as well, which is exciting. And then our big retail launch for our adult product as well later on in the year.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Yeah.
Amazing. No, honestly, it's been incredible to have you on the podcast. And
Thank you very much.
yeah, we spoke about so much from your upbringing and journey, obviously, to
wow.
the different business and the airline. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
you
If
very
anyone wants to obviously check out your restaurant or your Instagram, would you like to share that?
Yeah, it's the restaurant is nichefoodanddrink.com and our food production business is nichefreefromkitchen.com. Obviously, that's more B2B,
Yeah.
but there's some it links to some of the other websites that we have on there as well.
Yeah, amazing. Anyway, thanks so much for coming on, Mac.
Thank
and
you
yeah,
very
hope you
much.
enjoy it. Bye.